Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I have another 9.2 PTR update or information coming for you. This is about the Jailer's Gauntlet. That's the new Torghast. So there's like a new wing of Torghast open. It's kind of like the original thing that you had to do to complete a bunch of layers to get them out. It's similar to that. You have to unlock the layers and whatnot. But this is a bit of a it's like a boss rush kind of thing where you're just fighting bosses. There's not a bunch of trash or anything. You're literally just getting powers, fighting bosses, getting powers, fighting bosses, 8 layers, and it obviously gets a little bit harder as you go up layers. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about my experience in here. Not really many spoilers in here other than just the gameplay of the Jailer's Gauntlet itself. I'm not going to be going like over abilities or anything. It's not that difficult anyways. I didn't get to, I'm sure layer 8, I'm sure the top layer is somewhat difficult. Not the top floor of like layer 1, but like the top, level, maybe they're called, is a little bit more difficult. I didn't quite get there in one play session, but I played enough to get like the general sense of it. I played a few of the levels, and yeah, so basically you just queue for it like normal. It's next to the Twisting Quarters. That's the name of the other one. Queue into it. You'll start at 1, unlock them one by one, as I already mentioned. You'll go in there. You'll have some choices of some powers. I don't know if it's because of the box of many things, but or if everyone just gets really good powers that you get to pick from, but you'll get like a bunch of epic powers to pick from. Maybe there's a chance that you can have blue powers in there as well, but you'll start off with some strong powers essentially. And then you'll kill a boss. Sometimes it'll be like 2 bosses. Sometimes it'll be a boss. I'm sure as it gets harder, it's probably every time, and more bosses come out of the portal. But like Mossworm portals open up, and then you kill bosses that come out of there as well. Each one of those will drop an anima cell that you'll also get a power out of, and then there'll also be a power option at the end as you're ascending up to the next floor. And that one will also be like one of the ones that offers something really good, typically at least. So you'll have that as well. Now, at the beginning of each floor, you will not have 3 powers like you did on the first floor. Instead, as you ascend, you'll get 200 of the Phantasma. So you'll be able to make some selections there, or you can save it up or whatever at each vendor on each floor. So typically, this is going to allow you to buy like 2 anima cells, or if there's just a specific power that you want for your class or spec, you can target that power if it's available at the vendor. But yeah, you'll get 200 Phantasma per floor. Again, save it, use it whenever. I was just typically buying an anima cell with it, or the 5 cost anima cell and then 150 anima cell, and then obviously that 45 would add up eventually to where I could buy 2 of the 150s, and I was just doing that. That was my strategy, at least going into it, just to try to see how many cool powers I could get. Again, you do this all the way up to the top. It does get slightly harder as you go. It's not a huge power level between floors. I didn't feel like, though, like between floor 1 and floor 8, there's obviously a health difference, but I didn't notice a huge difference really. You do want some kind of sustained damage. One shots aren't necessarily the best thing, just because you will be fighting multiple bosses. So for Ret Paladin, for example, it's not a big deal, because since you're getting all these epic powers, it's really easy just to get the 3 Hammer of Wrath charges plus Hammer of Wrath extending how long your wings last. So when you combine those 2 things, you can basically have like infinite Avenging Wrath. And honestly, if you play Crusade, which I happen to be playing in this footage, you do actually, because of your haste going up with Crusade, you actually do get infinite Crusade, as long as you have something to cast your Hammer of Wrath on, with the haste increasing, or how fast your Hammer of Wrath recharges. So you're able to do that quite easily. It's just spam Hammer of Wrath and get it up, and then just do your rotation, whatever. It's actually quite simple, and so that's an option. You do want some kind of sustained damage, especially as you're going to go up higher. You'll want to do sustained damage so you can fight multiple bosses one after the other. There's like no break or anything like that. So yeah, it's actually quite fun. I am going to talk just quickly about how I might improve it, but this is quite fun. This is way more fun than regular Torghast, in my opinion, because you're basically just fighting bosses, getting powers, not clearing a bunch of trash. I think the idea of the, smashing the phylacteries, avoiding traps in the regular Torghast is actually a good idea. And I think in some ways it was executed better in Twisting Corridors, honestly. I think they were really hesitant to make it too difficult for people because of having the player power locked behind it. Speaking of which, now it's not going to be as important going forward, obviously. But if you have to craft a new legendary, you don't have any to scrap or anything like that, you do get tons of soul ash and soul cinders from doing this as well. So this is not just for fun. You can just farm the currency here. If once you get to the max layer, you could just farm that layer and just get tons of the currency, I'm sure. I'm not sure if Renown will drop from it. It wasn't on the PTR because I was actually on my Necrolord Covenant, which I'm not max Renown. I'm only like 74. I guess, I mean, I only did 2 or 3. I think I did 3 levels or something like that total. And so either I was 0 for 3 or you can't get Renown from it. So that'd be something. I would definitely add Renown to it, at least after a certain level. Or maybe there is Renown, but you have to complete it at a higher floor or higher level, since I didn't get all the way to the top. So I would definitely do that if it's not already in there. And then the other thing I would do is I would just make the bosses slightly harder, and then also just give more anima cells or more phantasma per ascension, essentially. And that way you could have just cooler builds, and it makes it even more fun to do. Makes it just kind of like, so like, oh, I have to farm X amount of soul ash. It's only going to take me a couple runs if I had to do. So if those few runs were actually really fun, that would be obviously an advantage rather than it feeling like something you really, really didn't want to do. Even if you're still not going to want to do it probably. But if you can have fun in the process, that's definitely a good thing. So I think players generally just want to have like more busted powers. And they're not going to create a bunch of new powers, but I mean, just accumulate more powers per. That was the cool thing about Twisting Quarters. Once you got to the, as you're going up, it lasted long enough to where you could have a pretty strong build. And this, I guarantee you're going to have a strong build. You might not be able to complete the exact build that you want, though. And I think some players have an issue with that. So, again, just giving more anima cells. Instead of starting with 3, start with 4. Instead of being able to buy 2 per floor on average, have you be able to buy 3 per floor on average on Ascension. And then eventually, like with Save Up, you can get 4 on any given floor, on a random floor, or twice or something like that. However the math works out. But yeah. That's how I would do it personally, or even more, and then just make the bosses more difficult, corresponding with the amount of powers that you get. And yeah, some people are just gonna, and some specs are gonna be just completely dominant, and that's fine. That's cool. I know as Ret, it's pretty much completely dominant because, like I said, you just have Crusade the entire time. Once you get to like floor or level, I keep mixing it between floor and levels, but once you get to layer 4, and then I throw in layers as well. But once you get to like layer 4 or so, you pretty much have, if you want that infinite Avenging Wrath, you can pretty much have that by then. Most times, obviously, there's going to be outliers or whatever. And then at that point, even if the stuff has a lot of health and you don't have other modifiers like increase, damage from your Templar's Verdict or whatever, or Final Verdict, which I'm using in this, even if you don't have the increased damage from that stuff yet, you're still pretty OP. You can still heal yourself for a ton. You can have a couple of the increases effects of Avenging Wrath and stuff like that. And I'm sure other classes and specs work similar to that. So you'll probably be able to have, I know some are even stronger, so you might even have like a completely overpowered build by like floor 2 or something. So that's pretty cool too. Overall though, generally I like it a lot. If they could make this available to level in as well as the other Torghast, that'd be really cool. I don't think that's probably the plan, but that would be cool if you could. But it's along the right lines. It's how I would expect something to evolve over the time and make it better. Hopefully they can learn something from this and maybe have something similar to this in the future, because this is actually kind of fun. It's also really quick, right? You're only fighting bosses, not a lot of trash. So overall, a great thing. If I want to nitpick, I'd say more powers, and then just increase the boss, I guess just the boss health, because they only have a set amount of mechanics. So, and then just increase the boss health proportionately to however many more powers that people are getting on average. So something like that. That's how I would improve it personally. That's about it for this video. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody have a good one.